Well, residents in Los Angeles may soon have to show proof of vaccination to enter many businesses. According to the public health director, 60% of county residents are fully vaccinated. So that's about 6 million people in a county of 10 million residents. The LA City Council has expected to vote today. They were expected to vote today on the measure forcing most residents to require that is, most businesses, I should say, to require customers to show proof of vaccination. But just a short time ago, one councilman pushed for a delay, and the vote was moved to next week. BNC's Anita Bennett reports.
This is no longer negotiable.
Los Angeles City Council President Nuri Martinez says it's time for people to stop dragging their feet and get vaccinated.
The stakes are way too high, and if you want to have fun, go to a bar, eat at a restaurant with your family, or you're going to need proof of vaccination in order for you to do that.
The council is considering a vaccine mandate that starting October 21st would force most people to show proof of a vaccination to go inside restaurants, bars, gyms, movie theaters, entertainment venues, and other public spaces. This comes after a recent surge in COVID-19 cases because of the Delta variant.
The Delta strain continues to ruin futures and take lives at a rapid pace.
There are exemptions for religious reasons and for people with medical conditions, but they'll have to show a recent negative COVID test. The county public health director says a vaccine mandate is needed so LA doesn't end up like Texas and Florida with much higher mortality rates.
And when you look at the mortality rates, here and in New York City, we saw between 4 and 2 deaths for every 100,000 people. Texas saw 12 deaths, and Florida saw 22 deaths per 100,000. This is 3 to 5-fold the number that we're seeing in LA County.
A vaccine mandate puts the burden on businesses, and some have started to hire security guards to help enforce these new health orders. Still, local leaders say they do expect most businesses to comply. I'm Anita Bennett for Black News Tonight.
And even though that vote was pushed until next week, the measure has widespread council support and is expected to pass. And we're learning more about COVID long haulers. A new study from PLOS Medicine reveals about 4 in 10 people infected with the virus still see at least one symptom 3 to 6 months after their diagnosis. Anxiety, depression, breathing, and abdominal issues, plus fatigue were the most common symptoms in the 27,000 people who were surveyed. Well, critics are slamming Alabama's governor, alleging misuse of COVID-19 relief funds for a controversial project. Republican Governor Kay Ivey responded to criticism from Democrats aiming to stop her plans of using $400 million in federal coronavirus relief funds to build 3 new prisons, including a women's facility, and renovate others. Now, Ivey accused Democratic leadership of throwing trillions of federal dollars toward their pet projects during the pandemic. Prisons have dealt with high rates of COVID-19 infections, with a recent study suggesting that the high incarceration rate in the U.S. helped further spread the deadly virus, which might have led to millions of cases. And now an update on Dylann Roof's request for a new hearing. Well, it's been denied. The move basically upholds his death sentence. The court ruled that Roof was properly convicted and sentenced for the 2015 murder of 9 black people during their Bible study at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston. Roof became the first person sentenced to the death penalty for a federal hate crime in the U.S. Well, Los Angeles County has announced that they will dismiss 58,000 additional marijuana convictions. Now, the cleared convictions date back more than 3 decades ago and are part of a state's legalization of marijuana in 2016, which went into effect 2 years later. Now, dismissing these convictions means the possibility of a better future for thousands of disenfranchised people, said the Los Angeles District Attorney. The total number of dismissed marijuana felony and misdemeanor cases, well, it's now reached over 120,000 since early 2020. Former basketball star Chris Webber has announced that he will be opening a cannabis facility in his hometown of Detroit, Michigan. The $50 million cannabis facility will be over 180,000 square feet and will feature a dispensary, smoking lounge, and more. The facility will also be a hub for training minorities interested in the cannabis industry, focusing on creative content, branding, and real estate. The compound is set to open March of 2022 with plans for future additions. Well, sadly, food deliveries are late or not showing up at all and leaving cafeteria staff scrambling to provide food for students. BNC's Jamise Price explains why from New Orleans.
The nation's supply chain is struggling, and the impact is reaching school cafeterias across the country.
I think this was just a time bomb waiting to happen.
Shipping containers sitting idle, limited truck drivers on the road, and fully stocked warehouses with supplies ready to go. This has left school nutrition programs scrambling to get food to students.
They're telling us for every 20 trucks, there's only one driver.
Dr. Katie Wilson is the executive director of the Urban School Food Alliance that represents 17 of the country's largest school districts. So, Dr. Wilson, what are these school districts now faced with?
So what we've seen across the country, literally no food showing up. I just got an email today. 14 trucks were supposed to show up at 14 different schools. They got two. Two trucks showed up at two different schools. There just isn't any food. If the truck shows up, they don't know what's on it. They could have ordered, all kinds of produce, and the next thing you know, they've got some kind of, fruit roll-ups or something.
In Kansas City, a big distributor canceled contracts with school districts. Wilson says new vendors are costing some districts 50% more. And in Alabama, nearly every school district is working to handle this crisis.
There's not necessarily a food shortage. We have the food. It's the logistical issue of making sure that there are drivers who can load the food, get the food to the school, get the food unloaded in cafeterias, and do that in schools all across the state.
Nearly 700,000 students depend on school-provided meals in Alabama. Almost half qualify for free or reduced lunch.
There are a lot of people who rely on the meals that they receive in school. That is, for many people, the only nutritious meal that they get for the day.
So meal programs are getting creative with their options. A new USDA waiver prevents districts from being penalized for not following federal guidelines due to supply chain shortages. Also, $1.1 billion in new relief funding going directly to school nutrition programs.
It's going to be really, really helpful. We have to be a little patient, though, because we feel like we're in crisis right now, and it'll take a little bit of time now to put all this together and make it happen.
I'm Jamise Price for Black News Tonight.
Well, hopefully the funding will also be used to offer attractive pay to those school nutrition program employees, because these programs are also dealing with a labor shortage. Now, Dr. Wilson said that in one district in Georgia, they had to start the school year with just one cafeteria worker in every elementary school. Well, we want you to join the conversation on any of the topics we're covering tonight. Go ahead and head over to our BNC Instagram and Twitter pages and let us know how you feel. Also, visit our website, bnc.tv, and subscribe to our YouTube page to check out clips from the show.